Welcome to the Chagrin Valley Conference Insider. This is Steve Hare, and joining us on this episode is John Kampf of the Lake County News Herald. We're going to talk some football. John, thanks for being here. Obviously, Sundays are the best day to talk football because there isn't much football happening in Cleveland.
Oh, boy. You know what? They make it so easy for me to find something else to do.
Right on. I know you were out at Berkshire Kirtland on Friday. Two 6-0 team and a 5-1 team. So it was billed as a pretty big game, especially since Kirtland starting quarterback Jake Laverty went out with an injury. But Max Paul stepped in, went 4 for 4 through a touchdown pass, and it was pretty solid night for the Hornets. So what did you see out there on Friday?
Well, Kirtland's going to do what they do no matter who the quarterback is. And, you look at it, yeah, Max Paul had not made a varsity start before that night, but, he's played a lot of football in the Kirtland system. I mean, he played that system all the way up through youth and junior high, so he knows the system well. He managed the game tremendously. They got the running game going, which means when the play action pass happens, everybody's open, and he made good passes. He managed the game. That's exactly what Kirtland needed from him, and exactly what really he needed for his confidence going forward, because he's going to be the quarterback going forward with Jake out. Kirtland's defense really set the tone. I would be remiss if I didn't mention Berkshire's a good team. That got out of control early just based on how everything happened. I mean, they had fourth and less than a yard on their own 29, and I understand why Coach Deweese went for it. Kirtland's up 7-0. We've got our strength is our running game, with Justin Phillips running the ball and that big veteran offensive line. It was a high snap, and so Barsikowski gets it down, and by the time he turns, the running back's already past him, so he gets thrown for a loss. Kirtland's got a short field. On the very next drive, a strip sack that Kirtland returns to the 5-yard line, so now they've got a 29-yard field and a 5-yard field. The next time Berkshire's got the ball, they rush the punter, and it's a 7-yard punt. So Kirtland has a 25-yard field to work with. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it would have been a multi-touchdown game anyway, but that's a recipe for disaster. If Kirtland's going to be given fields that are 29, 5, and 25 yards, they're going to just destroy teams, and that's what happened.
Oh, absolutely. And I'll tell you what, that's exactly what Kirtland needed out of Max Paul on Friday, just to establish that confidence that, hey, I can get the job done as well. I think they lose a little bit in the running game and on defense with Jake out, but that was a big game Friday night for Kirtland, just to say, hey, we've still got a quarterback that can get us through the postseason. But before we talk anymore, let's start out. Let's talk about the Chagrin division. We've got Perry and Hawken that sit at 2-0 apiece. They're 6-1 on the year overall. So they'll have a collision course meeting coming up here soon. I know you've seen Perry. I don't know if you've seen Hawken yet, but what do you see in that matchup?
That is going to be a track meet, because you got two teams that really like to spread it out, fling the ball around. Charlie Mallett, the quarterback over at Charlie Mallett's the receiver. Donovan Moorhead, the quarterback over at Hawken, is, just a heady, smart leader. You can tell that his father is a college football coach. He's a tremendous game leader. They can throw the ball around to Charlie Mallett, Kenny Obi, I think that's how you say his name. But they've got a lot of weapons there. And then if they get guys out of the box, then you can hand it to Jordan Johnson. And he's just an athlete. He knows how to run the ball. He's going to be well over 1,000 yards this year running the ball. The offense is electric. The offensive line is big. Then you got Perry. And Perry, Walter Moses, just set the all-time record for passing at Perry. And he's got a tremendous receiving core led by Luke Savon, one of the most underrated receivers, I believe, in the state. Tremendous athlete. And the running back, I think Carter Hopkins, I wrote about him last week. Carter Hopkins has really electrified this offense, giving them a home run hitting threat in the backfield that will spell Darian Howard and Owen McCoon and let them play a little bit more defense and not wear themselves out by just playing by running the ball too.
And that's a Week 10 matchup. So if everything holds true, that should be a pretty good one in Week 10. I can probably imagine where you'll be that night.
Yes.
But let's move on to the Lake Division. We've got Geneva and Madison, both 2-0 in conference play. Lakeside right behind 1-1. Jefferson 1-1. How do you see that kind of shaking out with Geneva and Madison yet to play?
The two really good teams. And I think Coach Gilligan, both those Coach Gilligan at Madison and Coach Shimsky at Geneva have just really got great programs going right now. I'm very happy for both of them. You just look at Geneva and they run the ball so well. It's so hard because you know that they're going to run the ball. You know the scheme because they've run it forever, and they still have success. Through 6 games, they had 4 different runners lead the team in rushing. Quarterback Luke Barbeau. Shoot, I remember when he was born. I'm friends with his parents. I remember when he was born, and he's the quarterback, and he's a good passer when they do pass. He can run the ball. You've got Hayden Deemer, who can fly. You've got Bryce Pete, who's a tremendous two-way player, and Caden Proy, good speed. So, they make no bones about what they want to do. They want to run the ball, and the key to beating them is getting them in 3rd and long situations where they have to pass, which doesn't happen very often, or if they turn the ball over, and that doesn't, or stop the run, and that doesn't happen very often either. Perry's the only team that was able to do that. And then it's the Madison. Will Randall, he's a really good pro style quarterback, one of the most well-spoken young athletes I've covered this year. Every time I interview him, I just am taken back by how smart of a kid this is. You can tell that he's a good leader because the way he talks, the way he feels like he's in control of everything. And when you've got him controlling that offense at quarterback, James Poe's running the ball very well in the running back situation. And then they've got, Nolan, multiple receivers, Nolan Albert and Max Steele among them. They've got a very multiple offense going there. I think that could be a good game, but the big things there is going to be Madison stopping or slowing down Geneva's running game, and they didn't do it last year, and so we'll see if they can do it this year.
We'll see that game in a couple of weeks, and again, if everything holds true, that should be a good one in week 9. We'll move on to the Metro Division. I know you don't see a lot of those teams, but I do. I've seen Independence a couple of times. I saw Trinity on CVC TV. They come in right now. They're 2-0 and 1-0 respectively. And then you've got Wickliffe and Brooklyn at 1-1, Beechwood at 1-1. So that division's still kind of wide open. The big game is going to be this weekend as Wickliffe visits Independence. What have you seen out of Wickliffe so far this year?
A lot of the same thing that I see with Geneva. You know what they're going to run. You know they're going to run that wing T with some different variations off of that. Frankie Buchar is a very good, smart, heady quarterback. You got Logan Ruskin, Ralph Jackson. They just have guys that are going to run the ball. Nunzio Zavnaska. They've just got guys back there that they're going to run the ball and make you stop them. It shortens the game. And, I think the Wickloff's going to be right in that. The key to them, like anybody who just runs the ball like that, you have to avoid getting behind the sticks, and you can't get behind by a couple of scores because you're just really not built to come back from that. But that being said, I think Wickloff's going to be just fine. That will be a tight game that will go right down to the end.
And that'll be the one that Wickliffe will be able to put itself in contention or even knock itself out of contention with a win or a loss on Friday. So that's a game to watch there. Moving on to the Valley Division, we've got Chagrin Falls at 2-0 and Kirtland at 2-0, and they play this week. So we've got some big matchups in week 8, 9, and 10 coming up. In this Valley Division matchup, what do you see?
It's hard to go against Kirtland just because they have not lost a league game since I think it was Cuyahoga Heights in 2016. So it's been a long time since someone in league play. Kirtland Perry was a crossover game, so that didn't count towards the league standings. But yeah, 2016. So it's hard to go against Kirtland. But gosh, I can't say enough about the job that Coach Scott has done down at Chagrin Falls. He's got those boys playing really well. They had 2 shutouts in a row going into this Friday night's game, which they won. They took a hit when Charlie Bazone, had a hamstring injury, and guys just keep stepping up. That defense is just so tough. It's and offensively, there's times when they run the ball down people's throats. When Jacob Hickey, the quarterback, runs the ball well, Jack Jellin, the running back, and they both have 100-yard games. The next time out, somebody might slow down that running game. Next thing you know, Jacob K throws for 250 yards, and Drew Zulch is putting on a highly real receiver. Spencer Koss as well. So they can do a lot of different things. I don't think that you can really base your season on the Kirtland game.
Right.
But the thing about it is that Chagrin Falls just has to find a way to get to the playoffs, and I think they've got a chance to do that. They have not made the playoffs, qualified for the playoffs since 2013. In the COVID year of 2020, everybody was in the playoffs, so that one Coach Scott doesn't really count that one. But for as far as Chagrin Falls qualifying for the playoffs, that was 2013. These guys were what, 6 years old when that happened. So I know that that's a big point of contention. These boys want to get out there and punch that ticket and say, hey, we earned this one. We are going to postseason play.
We had them on CVC TV on Friday night out at Fairview. They were down 10-0. They ended up winning 39-22. And the funny thing is, all those names that playmakers in that game, they just came up with big play after big play. So you're spot on right there, John. But yeah, anything else? Who are some of the better teams that you've seen, regardless of division, out in the CVC?
You know, when you look at the News Herald top of the crop, you know, I was pretty comfortable going with Mentor number 1 and VASJ number 2 and Lake Catholic number 3. And I was like, man, the VASJ, they're really good. But then when you saw what Mentor did to Erie McDowell and running clock them like convincingly, and then VASJ didn't, and I believe they lost to them. So they didn't have Bo Jackson. But that being said, I do like those two teams. Lake Catholic, there's just really no weaknesses there. You know, even when they lost David Ainini, their big offensive lineman, they fill in the blanks right there, and they just have kept churning along. You know, Ainini was starting on both sides of the ball, and that they just have depth there. Coach Gibbons is doing a tremendous job. You know, Kirtland, I think, is their number 4. Perry's number 5. Chardon, you know, losing how they did to Columbus Waterson, I think that really stung them. And then the very next week, you know, they lost to Kenston, and that is the first time since 2015 that they did not score a touchdown in a game. And I think that really the team you didn't want to be this past week was Willoughby South, because back-to-back games like that, like Chardon had, where they didn't play well. And then, let's be honest with you, they could play Waterson 10 times and they might lose 11 of them. I mean, Waterson is that good. They could win the state championship. They could be better than Toledo Central Catholic. But Chardon really had to go back and find themselves. And they did, and it came at South's expense. I really like Benedictine's team. They've got a 2-headed monster running back with Chris Maloney and Jameer Church. Maloney, is an all-Ohio wrestler, so, he's up there. That's, in my heart. I love the wrestling guys there. And Matthew First is going to have another 1,000-yard passing season, so good for him. And we've got a really good – right now, if the season ended right now, the News Herald would have 22 playoff teams, and we've never had that before. Now, we've got 3 weeks to go. There's a lot to happen between now and then, but it's a fun season. It really is. Absolutely,
and nobody better to cover it than you. You've done a great job for so many years. The area is lucky to have you and the other guys out at the News Herald. Ben and Chris, they do a phenomenal job. Mark, when he gets out, the Stringers, the area is lucky to have such a great paper covering the local sports. And just always a pleasure to have you on the show anytime I can. So I appreciate you taking some time out of your day, and
anytime.
Look forward to talking to you as we get into the playoffs.
You as well. Hey, Steve, thank you for all you do. I mean, the amazing. You served your country. You come back here and now you're serving your area with that CVC stuff, Ohio varsity. You're an icon, my man.
It's all fun. I love it. So, all right, John, thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Take care.
This episode of CVC Insider was presented by Michael Dolezal and Company, CPAs and Business Advisors. Call 216-485-2028 or visit cpaneeds.com to learn more about what Dolezal and Company can do for you.